Hi guys, Dave with First Place Auto Parts, and we are in the shop today, and today we're going to take a look at carburetors. One of the most popular upgrades for a classic American muscle car or truck is to upgrade either the intake manifold and or the carburetor. First Place Auto Parts, we offer a lot of different carburetors from Holley, and one of the things that we get asked a lot when we ask questions is, do I need a square bore or do I need a spread bore carburetor? In today's video, we're going to take a look at exactly that. So stay tuned. Today we'll find out which carburetor is right for your application. Hey guys, if you like today's video, please consider subscribing to the First Place Auto Parts YouTube channel. We're going to continually be adding new videos every week where we show you how to put new parts on. We take a look at the latest parts that are available, and we go to some pretty cool car guy stuff I'm pretty sure you're going to want to see. If you own a classic American muscle car truck, it was made between 1950 and early 1980, and it was equipped with a 4-barrel carburetor. Chances are pretty good when you open the hood, it's going to have a carburetor that looks like one of these two carburetors. What I have here are two examples of a traditional spread bore carburetor and a square bore carburetor. The carburetor on my right is made by Rochester and is a Quadrajet. This is your traditional spread bore carburetor. The carburetor on my left is made by Holley. It's part of their 4160 series carburetors and is a traditional square bore carburetor. First of all, the primary differences, right, are the butterfly sizes. And if you can see these two side by side, the primaries on the spread bore carburetor are smaller than the square bore carburetor. Both these carburetors flow 600 CFM. So you can tell that the primaries are smaller on the spread bore, and also the secondaries are much larger on the spread bore, okay? So it's a different philosophy on how to deliver the fuel. The spread bore carburetor, its driving efficiency is very good. It has very good throttle response. It has great control over the velocity through the primaries, which is where you drive probably 80 to 85% of the time. Really, unless you're at the drag strip or you're going to pass somebody as a daily driver, you're going to drive on your primaries almost all the time. The secondaries really come into when you want to pass somebody or just go faster. The spread bore carburetor is very efficient at that kind of driving. The spread bore carburetor, a little less efficient, certainly gets a little bit less gas mileage, and that's where the conundrum lies. This Quadrajet is an efficient carburetor. The Holley carburetor is a controlled leak. It's efficient, but it's not nearly as efficient at delivering at that first primary side of the carburetor where we drive, like I said, 85% of the time. Now the downside, when this secondary opens up, this large secondary on the spread bore carburetor, it disrupts a lot of airflow. There are no secondary accelerator pumps on either one of these carburetors to cover up that hole. So you have to be very good at tuning this thing from the transition from the primary to the secondary. You want to slow that secondary down enough that it doesn't create a hole or a bog. As a matter of fact, Quadrajet had their own bog. We used to call it Quadra bog or Quadrajet bog. And what it was when you matted the throttle, say from a dead stop or even from a rolling resistance, it sounded like it was going to suck the hood in because the secondary opened up. What then you felt was some sort of a sag or a hole, right? The car would actually almost slow down, and then all of a sudden it would pick up as the velocity through the secondary started to increase. It actually felt like a faster carburetor, but it wasn't. What we actually had done is created a bog or a sag in the power delivery with that secondary opening up too fast. It could be adjusted, and there were some guys out there that could do a really good job with them, but it took a lot of trial and error. The square bore carburetor, on the other hand, is really kind of a bolt-on piece. Because the primaries and the secondaries are equal size, it's a lot easier to tune for a lot of different applications. Yes, you're going to get a little bit less fuel economy, but the rewards are, the potential benefit is that the performance is going to be greater. Look, when this secondary on the square bore carburetor opens up, it's a smooth transition. It's not nearly as exciting, if you will, as the Quadrajet was. Again, because it doesn't have that bog. We're not disrupting that airflow with these two huge butterflies at the bottom. So the square bore actually is deceiving. It feels less fast, but the reality is the transition from the primary to the secondary is just that much smoother, and ultimately it makes it a better driving carburetor. Again, application-wise, depending on what you want to do with your car, is which one you'll choose, because Holley does still make spread bore carburetors. But the reality is that the Quadrajet was a great daily driver carburetor, but for everything else, the square bore carburetor is probably the right one for your project. Now, something to know about these two carburetors is that they have different platforms when it comes to intake manifolds, and by that I mean the mounting flange is going to be different. The Quadrajet carburetor, the spread bore carburetor, because of the large secondaries on this thing, these butterflies, what you'll see is the opening will actually flare out at the backside to go around these things. If you put a square bore carburetor on a spread bore carburetor flange, you will have a massive vacuum leak that will never run right. We offer some adapter plates that allows you to seal that thing up, but the reality is what it does is really creates a different turbulence and flow through the intake. So when you're buying your carburetor, make sure that you match it to the type of intake you have, or if you're buying an intake and a carburetor combination, make sure you get one that's matched for each. So if you have a square bore carburetor, make sure that you get an intake manifold that says it has a square bore mounting face to it. Vice versa, if you have a spread bore carburetor, make sure you get the correct intake manifold for it. Look, there are adapters, but all these adapters ultimately end up hurting flow, and that's not something we want to do from a performance or an efficiency standpoint. Choosing the right style carburetor is essential to getting your car to run right and achieve the performance that you want it to. Maybe it's a safety thing, maybe your old carburetor is leaking and you need to replace it, maybe you just want more performance. Either way, First Place Auto Parts has exactly what you need. And I'm going to include some links in the description that'll take you right to the Holley performance products on our always open, super easy to use website at firstplaceautoparts.com. Guys, I appreciate you watching this video, and until next time, keep the hammer down and keep pushing the guardrails.